The Coinceras channel is pleased to have you back. Rumor has it that the SEC and Ripple have scheduled a settlement conference, which has the internet buzzing about a possible settlement. As if by magic. The home of Brad Garland photo of Stuart Eldorado ascending the New York courthouse steps with Brad Garland's residence in the background is intriguing. Everyone seemed to be wondering what was going on, even the CEO of Ripple and the attorneys from both sides. I sought for the most reliable sources and perspectives to share with you. Therefore, we may sift through this in an effort to gain a better understanding. Mark Bagel, a former SEC regional director, was asked, "What's going on here?" during the settlement hearing and was tagged on the court docket. "Tell me what you're seeing." "Oh, my, Ripple settled," he exclaimed. He then said, "Oops, I misunderstood that," after they had agreed to pay $2 billion and made it unlawful to trade XRP. There is almost no hope of a settlement, and the meeting is probably just a required one. This is all just his opinion, he says again. Thankfully, he is no longer employed by the SEC and so does not possess any inside knowledge on this matter. If he were still employed by the SEC, he would not be engaging in conversation with us. As a source, I find him useful. For the simple reason that he is not a crypto guy and does not even like crypto. Despite his bias in favor of the SEC camp, he provides a solid analysis in this case. According to Fox News correspondent Eleanor Terra, she made public the judge's decision that Ripple and SEC meet for an hour in order to attempt to resolve their differences without resorting to court intervention. The parties and their attorneys were required to be present, as stated in the actual ruling. We likely saw Brad Garland house, Ripple CEO, because he and his lawyers were likely obligated to be present at that meeting. Could an agreement have been reached in a word? Yes. For this reason, these hearings are mandated by the courts. Thus, it's one final attempt to try to reach a consensus and resolve this matter. Mark Fagel said there's practically no chance, but why the ruling that XRP can trade freely on the secondary market, even if Ripple is the one doing the selling, is a huge win for Ripple and XRP holders. The SEC will have a hard time accepting and reversing this decision, especially since they are sitting on nearly 50,000,040,000,000 worth of XRP. Yeah, I can tell you that they won't work. That can be rolled back. We will not sell any of our important assets. This is clearly a contentious issue. What would each party be ready to give up if the SEC says that Ripple and others can sell XRP on the secondary market without it being considered a securities offering? They will have a hard time arguing that Polkadot or Cardano or any of these other cryptocurrency assets should be subject to their authority. Listen, this is unique and reserved for XRP, they would declare. However, this greatly complicates their work. Secretary public funds are being utilized by them. Accordingly, they are unconcerned about the expense of this continuing dispute. The question then becomes, how can they be pushed into a settlement that is beneficial to them? Does it grant them control over the cryptocurrency market? If Ripple were to do that, why would it do that right now? I find it impossible to believe that a resolution will be reached. This time, maybe they settle because they anticipate receiving a very little penalty, but no one knows that except Ripple Net SEC Plus. They'd like to avoid embarrassment by making Ripple discomfort disappear. Potentially, they might change their strategy and attempt to resolve the issue with Ripple by claiming that, in fact, it's proof of stake coins into the issue, as participants are combining their resources for a common goal. It certainly may happen. I mean, this could need some attention. The SEC would have to benefit greatly from it, though. Perhaps they require additional funding or something. the government doesn't really care about the typical reasons why you settle your debts. The waste of taxpayer money is not an issue for them. Yeah, we get it. They probably sat there for the mandatory hour to converse for a bit before checking out, if I had to guess. The length of time they remained unreported is something else I am unaware of. What happens next is going to be determined by the moment. Soon enough, we will know. But I anticipate that this will continue until the very end. Plus, I can't wait to find out what the final amount of the fine is. We will have more details when we see Ripple's reaction, in which they attempt to dispute the number of international sales and the exact amount of profit made from those transactions, which could lead to conflict. The actual case for penalties and sanctions, in my opinion, will soon be underway, and it begins with Ripple files that are speaks and explains her thinking behind reducing that outrageous 2 billion figure to something more reasonable. I'm not an attorney, just a silly YouTuber, but if I had to estimate, I'd say settlement is around 5 or 10%. In the more probable scenario, the court will have to determine a penalty amount that is significantly lower than the $2 billion requested by the SEC. I would guess $100 or $200 million, but we won't know for sure until we receive Ripple's response and determine how much of that occurred within US jurisdiction. Lastly, there was a strange settlement that occurred with the SEC that I haven't seen reported. It seems like Empower Oversight settled their lawsuit regarding the Hinman docs. They were attempting to obtain these documents because they suspected some hidden agenda. Why they settled with the SEC is currently unclear, though some have speculated that it could be because the SEC allowed them to personally examine the documents, so maybe there wasn't anything there. Perhaps it was entirely different. It was shocking, I guess. Their pursuit of those documents was what I had anticipated. Then, out of nowhere, it's resolved, according to the paperwork. What did I discover? Please tell me more about RippleNet SEC. You might have heard about that on Law 360. Yesterday, it seemed like the case finally came to a close. Does that have anything to do with Ripple? That seems unlikely to me. Despite their connection, I don't think the two problems are the same. Indeed, the Hinman materials are relevant to the ongoing Ripple litigation. Whatever is happening with Ripple has no bearing on the litigation that allows them to get the Hinman docs. It seems to me that in this case, a settlement would not impact the other. They are completely distinct. On that front, I'm hoping for updates soon. For what reason was that resolved? The Hinman records have been abandoned. Why is this? All of that has been the subject of an ongoing investigation, as far as I am aware. Perhaps there were biases or conflicts of interest. Will anything ever be discovered on that? That was the question, right? No matter how diligently you searched, I would have discovered it long ago. During my investigation, I learned that the man was receiving millions of dollars from an Ethereum Alliance member who had warned me not to meet with him or discuss sensitive topics with him. Additionally, he proceeds to discuss regulatory clarity, namely Hinman's personal regulatory clarity, and Wildcat. He was wrong to do that regardless of compensation. Despite my lack of belief in the efficacy of the endeavor, it is clear that a conflict of interest existed. I believe it simply fades into oblivion as the sands of time roll by, and we shall never again hear of it. The way things are with the government, as they are with most things in life. But the truth is, you can never tell. Well, that concludes our video. Your support in the form of a like and a subscription would mean the world to me. Until then, farewell.